Hello, hello, good morning, happy Sunday. It is so good to see each and every one of you. It is so good to be here with each and every one of you. Let us begin, as we always do, with prayer. And so I invite you here and now in this moment to just take a breath in and breathe out, and breathe in and breathe out. And let us affirm together peace to my mind,
Peace to my mind.
peace to my heart,
Peace to my heart.
peace to my life,
Peace to my life.
peace to my mind,
Peace to my mind.
peace to my heart,
Peace to my heart.
peace to my life.
Peace to my life.
There is one mind, one power, one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one life, and that life is our life now. It is the very life of God, the very life of good flowing in, through, and as us. It is the divine battery that empowers us, that enables us to be, do, or have anything that we desire. It is the divine love that is love in, through, and as us, and loving on us. It is the divine givingness, giving to all, freely, equally, always available to us, because God is right here, right now. It neither comes nor goes. Love is right here, right now. It neither comes nor goes. We do not have to clang any cymbals or beat a tambourine to call God in. We simply bring our attention to the reality that God is here now, all of it. And as I remember that God is here now, I know that we are here now, for we live, move, and have our being in God. And we are one with God. We are one of God. What God is in the large, we are in the small. We are the wave, and God is the eternal ocean. And so it is out of this awareness that I speak this word in faith, that this time, this gathering, this weekend service is blessed beyond compare. It is good. I call it good right now. It is healing. I call it healing right now. It is enlightening. I call it enlightening right now. It is empowering. I call it empowering right now. It is giving us all that we need and desire. It is the answer. It is providing solutions. It is providing perspective right here and right now. We leave here differently than when we walked in. I am so grateful and thankful for this gathering. I am so grateful and thankful for every soul that is present here now, co-creating this experience. I am so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to celebrate the truth, to examine the truth, to talk about the truth, to pray affirmatively, to pray intentionally. I am so grateful and thankful to be gathered with like-minded minds and like-minded souls and individuals that are seeking to thrive, that are seeking to live empowered, that are seeking to make change in their lives and be lighthouses to the world of what is absolutely possible, that God loves us unconditionally, that we are worthy, that we are sinless, and we have the opportunity to live from that awareness. So it is with joy and thanksgiving that I release this prayer. I release it back into the law, which I know is always in operation and is responding to my decision and my expectation. I expect the good. And so right here and right now, I let it be, and it is done. Together we lift up our voices and we say, Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Thank you, God. Well, hello again. Good morning. Happy Sunday. It is so good to see each and every one of you.
Yes, yes.
We have been away for the last 2 weeks, so it's good to be back and to resume and be back in this Sunday morning vibration. There may be a few of you who are here with us for the very first time, and we just want to shout you out and say, hey, it's so good to have you here. We're so grateful that you chose to connect in with us. If you are a first-time guest, we would love to stay in touch with you. And you see here on the screen the information to access our digital connection card. It's very easy to access that information. Just pull out your phone and text the word welcome to the number you see here on your screen, 347-472-1078. Just the word welcome, no hellos, no it's awesome here, no emojis or smiley faces. Just the word welcome, and you'll receive an automated response with a link. That link is your guide to the connection card. And so you tap that link, it takes you to the digital connection card, and enter all of your information. Once you've entered your information and submitted it, then you'll receive a follow-up text that says you're all set. And indeed you are. From that point on, you'll be on our mailing list. Occasionally, we may send you a text message, but each and every week, we send out our newsletter, our weekly email that comes out on Fridays, which has lots of pertinent information that I'm sure you're going to want to have handy and have in your inbox to refer to later. So now is a good time to get into, of course, our announcements. But before we get into the announcements, I just want to share a couple of things. First, to say thank you to everyone. For those who do not know and maybe did not see my social media posts earlier this last week, actually, we canceled service last week because I had COVID. I actually tested positive for COVID on June 2nd. Thankfully, PY was negative and tested several times. So one of the things we did quickly, I stayed here in isolation, and we sent PY to a hotel to quarantine away from me so that she could remain negative. She continued to test negative while she was away. I'm so grateful and thankful to be back and to be feeling good. The 5 days of isolation was fine. The first few days, fever and chills was a little rough. But by Saturday, I no longer had a fever, and I've been good ever since. I'm grateful and thankful for the care and research. It's very different to get COVID in 2022 than it is in 2020, and that's one of the things that I was really mindful of. I recognize my privilege. I recognize that I had everything I needed in terms of I wasn't worried about work or losing money or any of those things. Also knowing that here 2 years later, we have a much better understanding of how to treat this disease, yes, right? And how to care for ourselves and the things that we need. And so I encourage each and every one of you, if you don't have rapid tests in the house, please get rapid tests. If you are a U.S. citizen, or not just a U.S. citizen, resident in the U.S., the federal government is providing free tests. So you can go online and get those free tests. If you have health insurance, your health insurance will reimburse you for any tests that you purchase, but it's very important that you stay in the process of testing. That's one of the things, before we went on our trip to LA, we tested before we got back came back home from LA. I had to test that Tuesday. I tested negative for a show I was doing. And by Wednesday night is when my symptoms started. Overnight I had a fever, and in that morning I tested. And of course, after the 5-day isolation, I've tested every day, and I've been testing negative. So it's very important that you're mindful of your symptoms, right? Don't think it's just a cold, and also that you're mindful to do the things that you need to do to isolate. So I appreciate everyone, those of you who reached out to me and sent me love. I appreciate all your prayers. I feel your prayers. I felt your prayers. I affirmed that COVID would leave as quickly as it came, and so it did. As we always say, these teachings and the practice of this teaching, it's not about avoiding things, absolutely, but it's about how you move through it when they show up. And so, I'm just grateful. I'm just absolutely grateful. So I wanted to give y'all that update and let you know we're okay, we're doing well. And again, the most awesome thing is that although we were together, thankfully PY was not sick and continues not to be.
Right, I remain negative.
Yes. So with that, let's get into our announcements. It is Pride Month. This is the second Sunday, so we didn't get to say Happy Pride last Sunday. But shout out to our LGBTQ plus family. We are a church, and we are pastors that are honored, humbled, and proud to be your pastors and to be an affirming church. And so we celebrate your brilliance. We celebrate your love, and we know that you will continue to thrive. And we, of course, celebrate with our family on this month.
Absolutely.
If you have a prayer request, you can send that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebration.sc.org. That email is received by our prayer champions, and it's received by me and PY. We will continue to know the truth and hold the truth with you. And we also encourage you that as your prayers are answered, that you follow up. Send us an email and let us know that your prayer is answered. Whether you're sending an email on behalf of a family member or a friend, or whether it's for yourself, we love to hear the testimonies that prayer still works. We know it does, and it's powerful when we know that you know it does. We also have a weekly prayer call every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Momentum Prayer Call is a wonderful way to continue the momentum that we create on Sunday, or to jumpstart the momentum if you need to jumpstart it in the middle of the week. It's a wonderful way to begin your morning practice. We gather together at 7 a.m. We share a reading, pray, and move on with our day. As you can see, there's also a playback number there, and so you can call in anytime and listen to the playback. One of the things that we began last month, for if you're on our mailing list, and it's a wonderful reason to be on our mailing list, is that in that weekly email, we are now including the link to listen to the most recent prayer online, right? So what that also means is, as the weeks go by, in your inbox at any time, you can go to your inbox, go to that Friday email from CSC, go to the prayer support section, and click the image or click the link, and it'll take you straight to that prayer. And again, you can listen to that online. You won't have to use the callback number. Summer Vibes. We are so excited to let you know that there are new t-shirt designs in our online Spreadshirt store, and through 6/14 you can get 20% off on those shirts. I've seen that some of you are already purchasing shirts. We have
I love seeing it.
Pride colors. We have the design that was inspired by the Polaroid logo colors. We have Juneteenth colors. And so next week is Juneteenth. I don't know if you can get it in time, but it is 20% off until the 14th. And you'll see as the weeks go by, we'll continue to have different promos. After the 14th, it'll actually be 22% off. And then the following week, it'll be free shipping. And so there's lots of automatic deals that are set up and will be happening. But show your love for CSC with summer colors and summer vibes. I look forward to getting my shirt. I'm going to put my order in today and rocking my shirt this summer. Next Sunday would normally be God Talk Sunday, but unfortunately the God Talk is canceled. Next Sunday is a double holiday. It's we're moving into Juneteenth weekend, right? And then also it is Juneteenth actually next Sunday, and it's also Father's Day. So the God Talk is canceled, but we look forward to being back next month for the July God Talk. Well, that concludes our announcements for today. And so now we can move into the power of meditation with the meditation experience and Pastor Yolanda.
Well, hey, everybody. It's so good to feel you all in the building, to feel your energy, to know you are here and we are here. Our love extends just like the ripples in the ocean. It goes out and it comes back. We are so grateful to know that we can stand at this ocean of goodness and receive. That the moment we step into that awareness that God is good and that this goodness permeates everything that we are, that we do, that we say, it's only our resistance to the good that prevents the good from getting in. I love how Louise Hay says you can go to the ocean with a thimble and you can collect a thimble full of good. You can go with a cup and collect a cup full of good, or you can hook a hose up to the ocean and allow the good to come to you. This image is so powerful that we get to imagine in our minds standing there, being open and receptive to good, which is in perfect alignment with our affirmative thought for the month. I am open and receptive to my good now. Now, doesn't matter how I've blocked it or questioned it or felt unworthy of it in the past. I'm open and receptive to my good now. And I say my good because my good doesn't prevent you from having your good. There's enough good. There's an infinite well that we all get to tap into. When we close our eyes during meditation and we give ourselves permission to breathe and be, we get to be open and receptive. We don't have to name our good. It is all encompassing. We don't have to be anything other than who we are right now. We just have to be willing to allow it. From that knowingness, this awareness that wherever we are, we can find it, we can allow it. Let's look around the room and notice that we are in a safe place. Sometimes we are so blocked and so much in fear that we cannot even allow our body to relax and receive. But we're going to do that today. First, we proclaim our safety. I'm safe. I'm in a place where good flows to me. And from this awareness, allow the palms to relax on the tops of the thighs. Allow the ears to align over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips, so you're not leaning too far forward or too far back. Let's allow this nice, normal, relaxed place. The body likes to be in alignment with its good. Close your eyes and let's take the journey inward. When we close our eyes, we pass this threshold of external conditions and we take our journey to the center of truth. We ride the wave as the breath flows to our good. And from this place, just notice the breath. Like a ripple in the ocean, it goes out and it comes back. Like a ripple in the ocean, our good is continually flowing. Take a few more rounds to notice the breath, making no judgment whether it appears to be deep or appears to be shallow. We just allow the good that is flowing on the breath to be ours now. My breath doesn't prevent your breath. I'm open and receptive to my breath, to my good now. Beautiful, everyone. Let's take that breath deeper and let's take control of the breath. Sending the breath into the low belly. Sending good into the low belly. Sending life into the low belly. Together, inhale, expand the low belly. Hold it there. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, and release. Again, in through the low belly, sending the breath deep, expanding, and hold. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, release, making more room for the good. The ripple of good in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the front and the sides and the back of the body. Hold that expanded cup, that expanded awareness. And open the mouth, sigh it out. Feels good to breathe in through the low belly, up through the rib cage again, finding new places for good to flow. Hold it there. And sigh it out. in through the low belly and up through the rib cage, and like a magnet drawn to the heart, breath flows. Hold it there. And sigh it out. Again, in and all the way up through the heart. Hold it there. And without collapsing, release that breath, drawing the navel in towards the spine. And let's practice that full breath. This is the way we're supposed to breathe. We were designed to take the full breath, to feel the good all the way in through and as our bodies. And hold it at the top. And this time, close the lips and exhale through the nose. This will be our form of breath work. A breath focus, a breath gratitude in and out through the nose. And just as we become more open and receptive to the body relaxing, we become more open and receptive to our good now. Let's practice for a few rounds on your own. Going deeper, becoming more available and more relaxed each round. Last round, to sink deeper in to the breath and allow that goodness to flow into the feet. Relax the feet, sending that goodness up through the soles of the feet, accessing the ankles. Relax the ankles. I'm open and receptive. We are open and receptive to our good flowing across the shins and the calves. Relax and open the shins and the calves. We open and allow good to flow across the knees. Any tension there, we breathe and relax the knees. Energy flows across the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings. We relax the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings. And as that relaxation flows through the lower half of our body, we just let go and allow good, because we are open and receptive. From the base of our spine, we send that energy up. As we inhale and exhale, relax to allow more good. In and up. Exhale and allow. In and up. And exhale and allow. I am open and receptive to more good as it flows in and up, up, up and out the crown of my head. An unending stream of good. As that energy gathers above us all, we see it connecting us, uplifting, empowering, and inspiring us. As it flows back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, Across the shoulders and down the arms, out the fingertips. Today we all turn our palms up to be open and receptive and relax them back down onto the tops of the thighs. Scan your body to notice if you're holding or blocking any good. If the mind goes to what isn't good, it's okay. Be open and receptive and willing to allow more good. If the mind wanders, lovingly, gently, bring it back to our truth. I am open and receptive to my good now. Take the breath and relax a little more. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey. And everywhere that the breath flows, let God, the good, flow. In, through, and as you now. With our eyes still closed, we enjoy how good it feels to remember. With our eyes closed, we enjoy the sensation of an ocean of good flowing through our bodies, our lives, our experience now. From this depth of knowingness, we take this picture. We send the imagery to our body so that it remains relaxed. And at any time, we can come back to it. When the external feels unloving, we come back to, I am open and receptive to my good. Let's start to slowly bring ourselves back now, turning the palms down onto the tops of the thighs, noticing the sensation of palm touching thigh. That gentle touch is all the signal we need to make our return. From this place, we inhale, draw the shoulders up by the ears. Exhale as release the shoulders back and down, sending the heart forward. Inhale up. Exhale, shoulders draw back and down. Last time, inhale up. Exhale as we draw the shoulders back and down. We stay open, heart open, life open to good. Bring palms together at heart center. Lightly touching the thumbs into the sternum, that little bony ridge right there at the center of the chest. Bowing the chin towards the fingertips, feeling the opening at the back and the spine, the base of the neck. We are completely open and receptive to good now. Slowly flutter the eyes open. Nice soft gaze, no strain on the eyes or the experience. Inhale. Raise the chin, raise the gaze. Release the breath. Namaste.
Yes, yes, yes. Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome, babe.
Awesome. So we are in, I think this is week 9 of our class, and we're going to begin actually chapter 5 today, Decide to Live Richly. You'll see it as it continues to scroll through as we continue. You see we have our study resources and links. You can scan that QR code or just go to celebrationsc.org/power to get those resources. Also, any questions that you have as you're reading, send those questions to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org. I must say I was actually surprised that over the 2 weeks we did not receive questions about this chapter. So all good. We'll probably spend this week and next week on that chapter. So as questions come up, you can email them. Let's see. I think that's it. So we can get into this chapter, which is a really awesome chapter for so many reasons. So let's let me see. Let's get into it. Let me just adjust my screen here so I can see what I need to see.
Decide to live richly.
Now, you notice this doesn't say decide to have a lot of money. Right, and this is very important. Raymond Charles Barker defines prosperity. If you remember, I think it was in the March series where I brought us back to the idea of what prosperity is. And so we must understand that if you have limited prosperity to having a certain amount of money or having a lot of money, you do not yet understand prosperity. If you have limited living richly or even being wealthy to simply having a certain amount of money and judging yourself according to that, you have actually limited what it means to be rich and what it means to be wealthy. And so we are going to decide to live richly based on a proper understanding of what that is and what that means.
And it's beautiful that you said to not judge yourself for according to some standard of what you think it is. Because most of the time what we're doing is negatively looking at the conditions and deciding that I am or I am not something.
Right.
As opposed to deciding what you are and then allowing it to be reflected in every area of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, decide to live richly. The grandeur of life is known by the few when it should be known by the many. The majority of people live in part only. They are half healthy, half wealthy, half happy, half creative. Right? That sentence is so freaking powerful. Right? Because you think about it, right? Many of us are half happy. And we've decided that, oh, well, this is enough. I'm happier than my mother was, or I'm happier than my best friend, so I'm happy, right? I'm happier than my coworkers, so
or I'm happy in this area. I'm happy with my career, but
Right.
I'm not entitled to be happy in relationship.
right? Half healthy, half wealthy, half happy, and half creative. They have accepted this halfway living as normal. Which is what most of society has accepted. Once in a while, in a rare moment, they glimpse a larger life and wish that could be so. They then return to their habitual thinking and continue to function in their half-hearted way. Half living is abnormal and unnecessary.
And when he's saying abnormal, he's meaning the normal way of living, right, is completely healthy, happy, and whole.
Yes, yes. You can live a much fuller life right where you are in your present circumstances. It does not require more money, a better job, a nicer home, or a different marriage partner. It requires a change in consciousness, and this you can do, for you are a thinker. So here again, he's bringing us back to understanding law. It requires a change in consciousness. Life is actually lived from the inside out. Right? I'll use this example over and over again. If you saw something in the mirror and on your face, your reflection in the mirror, you would not go to the mirror to change it. You would go to the source. But what we have been taught to do in this human experience is to constantly try to draw on the mirror. And that's what most of us have been doing, right? With clothes and all, other things that we do externally, we're just drawing on the mirror. And so, the reflection in the mirror looks different, but you never actually change the source. And so the truth is, you can change your present circumstances because you can change your consciousness. Why? Because you are a thinker. That's principle. That's law. Right. It always has to come back to that.
And I love the idea that I am a thinker, because so often we are unconsciously thinking. It's telling you, A Course in Miracles talks about this idea of thought and thinking. We're always thinking.
Always.
We become unconscious about our thoughts and the pattern of our thinking until something goes wrong or until it's not to our liking. And I'm always affirming. This morning when I took my vitamins, a normal activity that most people would be unconscious around, as I took my vitamins, I was like, look at life supporting me in my perfect health, right? And it sounds like a little intangible, but we're always thinking. Don't go unconscious around things.
Right, absolutely. You are the controller of your consciousness. The moment you decide to live a richer life, your consciousness will devise the ways and means of your having it. Consciousness contains total intelligence because consciousness is the action of the infinite mind thinking. Your consciousness is the individualization of the total consciousness of being. That is why it will demonstrate for you a richer life when you are certain you want it and you have decided to have it. And I just want to make sure we all understand that sentence when he says your consciousness is the individualization of the total consciousness of being. So we affirm all the time in New Thought, I am one with God, right? And we also understand because we are one with God, then all that is and all that is the reality from that highest realm of being must be true of ourselves, because we are individualized expressions of that thing. This is why I always love to affirm, and you heard it in this morning's prayer. We are the wave and God is the ocean, right? You think about the waves. PY was, talking to us today in the meditation about that beautiful image, that image of the Pacific Ocean. I was telling her that's from Hawaii, right? And so we understand the wave has this beautiful action, and it does wonderful things and powerful things. Waves can actually get really tall, and waves can topple cities. But we recognize that the wave is an expression of this ocean, which from the perspective of the wave is unending, right, and unbounded, right? And it's because of the great power of the ocean that the wave is able to have this wonderful expression. So that's what he's saying here when he says consciousness contains your consciousness is the individualization of the total consciousness of being. It's saying we are the wave, God is the ocean.
Right, and everything that the ocean has, we have as the wave. Right, the same power, the same creative ability, all of that, it possesses, we possess. You don't take a drop of ocean and it doesn't still contain the properties of the ocean. It does, it has to.
Right. And remember also, and the wave in no way can demonstrate the depth of the ocean, right? I mean, and all of the things that are present within the ocean, right? As humans, we're still uncovering and revealing new species at deeper depths of the ocean, right? And so all of that is back of, behind, underneath, and all around the expression of the wave. So we go on. It all depends on you, not on the world of events, things, and people. Your mind is where you live. Your world, your body, and your situation react in exact accordance to your mind, knowingly or unknowingly. Not someone else's mind, your mind. An expanded consciousness expresses in an expanded experience. This is the way the law of mind works, and it works no other way. A greater and happier outward experience requires a larger and fuller knowing and consciousness to precede it.
Your mind is where you live. I mean, and sometimes when you see these kinds of statements, you're like, well, duh. But the way many times we operate, I love to say, no one can drive you crazy unless you give them the keys. So you've given ownership of your mind to someone else by allowing their thoughts to inhabit your space, to create in your world. Now, when we're younger, we don't have this kind of control.
Right.
We're just receptive sponges, right? Many of the habits and beliefs get established very early.
Yeah.
And so as an adult, we get to remember that our mind is where we live and take control of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 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 And so that beautiful idea, he says, requires a larger and fuller knowing. This is that expansion, right? At some point, in some way, we have to believe that something bigger, better, more loving is possible for us, right? And we have to have that in mind. This is why I love the parable of the prodigal son, right? Because one of the things that we see, we're watching how the law works in that story, where after he had left home and squandered all of his money, and he's there in the slop with the pigs. The story is so specific. It says, then he came to himself, and he had a larger and fuller idea. He said, wait a minute. Even my father's servants have more than enough. And so he realized in that moment that there definitely had to be more than enough available to him. He recognized in that moment that it was possible for him to live differently than how he was living in that slop with those pigs. And it was out of that thought that then he picked himself up and turned towards home. And as soon as he turned towards home and began in that direction before he got home, the Father already sent the things and reminded him that he's loved, that he's worthy, that he's powerful. But it required first what? A thought. In consciousness, knowing in consciousness, that larger and fuller. That's what that reminds me of. I love it.
It's beautiful. And as you tell that story now, even though he squandered, he made the mistake.
Yes.
The Father still had it all back there waiting on him. Like there was more than enough. So whatever mistakes you've made in your life, in your finances, in your whatever.
Yes, yes.
There's still the abundance back there waiting when you turn in the direction of it.
Yep.
You didn't take it all from the ocean.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
I love this.
Yeah. Many people use this mental law in reverse. They think in smaller terms all the time. They unconsciously lessen their viewpoints, take less and less interest in the business of living, and wonder why they are unhappy and limited in scope. If you were to tell them that it is because of their consciousness, they would be furious. They live in the closed-in belief that nothing is their fault, that somehow the situation developed by its own causation. Now, fault, I think, is a triggering word.
Yeah, it is.
And what I would shift that to say they live in the closed belief that they have no control.
Yes, that's what I was
in
gonna
their
say.
life, right? At all, right? And that's the thing that I love about these teachings. It's impossible to know if we have absolute control because there's so much going on and there's collective consciousness. But I know that we individually have far more control over the outcome of our lives than most people have allowed themselves to think and believe or been taught to think and believe. That is absolutely true because my life has proven that to me, right? So they adjust to the lesser life and say that those who are able to live with ease and in order are lucky. There's no such thing as luck, right? I love what Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman says. She took luck and made an acronym and said living under correct knowledge.
Yes.
Right.
Say that again so we all can write it down.
Right. An acronym, luck, living under correct knowledge. Right. So if you want to use that word, think of it in that way because that's all luck is in the sense of thinking in a way that is in accordance with the law, living under correct knowledge. The latter are not lucky, they are wise, right? They see themselves in a larger way. They not only glimpse the greater, they grasp it.
They allow it, they're open to it, whatever word works for you. Right? Because sometimes grasp mean we got to struggle for something.
Right.
I'm just open to it. They allow it.
The psalm, redefine yourself. The psalmist wrote, "Thou openest thine hand and satisfiest the desire of every living thing." Psalm 145:16. This is the divine givingness in which we are forever immersed. This is why the kingdom of heaven is on earth right now and can be experienced right now. The infinite mind, being infinite, could not create a limited creation. You are the unlimited creation of an unlimited source that is forever giving to you its unlimited ideas, possibilities, and potentialities. Sometimes we can ascribe that to other people and other things and great athletes and great musicians and great thinkers and scientists and politicians and creators of any kind, right? We can ascribe that to the cosmos. We can ascribe that to the galaxies, and we can ascribe that to the stars, and we can ascribe that to the planets, and we can ascribe that to the ocean, and we can ascribe that to the rainforests, and we can ascribe that to the various species of fish, and we can ascribe that to all of the other animals that are on this beautiful planet. We can ascribe that to so many different things, and like, oh, wow. And they're unlimited, beautiful, powerful creations. But the truth is, all of us, everything that I named, yes, is a creation of the infinite mind, and it creates like itself, right? You are the unlimited creation of an unlimited source that is forever giving to you its unlimited ideas, possibilities, and potentialities.
Right. You know, sometimes when we get an idea and we think that that's the only good idea we're ever going to have, and we limit the unlimited.
Right, right.
We limit it. We're like, oh, I had this idea, then somebody else did it. Well, this unending, infinite field is always flowing, is always giving ideas. Some people allow them and others don't, but it doesn't mean that they've stopped coming to you.
Right.
They're only blocked by your belief that they're blocked.
Right.
That you only get one.
Right.
You only have one talent.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Well, why would the infinite create limited?
It's impossible. It's not its nature. Its nature is to release itself in you as you. It cannot withhold its ideas. By its very nature, it must express itself through humanity. Right. And what's interesting about this, see, this is, I was telling PY the other week, I was saying so often, and I did a sermon called Check Your God's Concept many years ago. And you hear us talking about that all the time. Check your God concept, check your God concept. But what I recognize is that we actually need to destroy, in most cases, our God concept. And then it reminded me of, if you go back to the sermon series, Follow the Yellow Brick Road, destroying your wizards, right? Like the wizard in the story of the Wizard of Oz represents the God concept, right? The reigning God concept that most people have. And that concept needs to be destroyed. And what it was beautiful in the way that story destroys the wizard, you find out that ain't no power in the wizard, right? You had it within you all along, right? So we actually need to destroy our God concept, because when you hear this, it's God's nature to release itself in you as you. God cannot withhold. It's God's very nature to express itself through you. Well, see, that goes very much against the God concept that most of us were given either directly or indirectly, right? So you actually need to destroy your old God concept to really accept what's being said here, right? That God releases itself in and through you, and that it cannot withhold from you. It cannot.
It would not. It cannot. It just...
It's literally, it can't do that, right? It's like, a flute can't make the sound of a cello. It just can't, because that's not the nature of the flute, to make that sound, to vibrate in the way that a cello vibrates, to create the sound that it does. It's so powerful if you really think about that. Have you ever considered that that's the reality of God? And that's why we say God is love, unconditional. Unconditional love cannot withhold.
Right.
Right? It cannot judge. Right? It cannot do these things.
And I love this idea. When we began, many of us, we didn't even know we had a God concept.
Right.
And so it was important to check it out, to be aware of it.
Absolutely.
Right? So we were moving in its progression in our understanding of who and what God is and how it works. And so first we're like, oh, wait, I have a God concept? No, I don't. I came to New Thought because I believed that this. But it's not operating in your life, so you don't believe it.
Right.
And so it's important to become aware of your God concept. Check it out.
Yeah.
Understand that it's operating, then decide to change it.
There you go.
And in fact, then obliterate, destroy the old one, and replace it with this one.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes.
We can't go back and undo all the years that you have been inundated with this old one. But you are the controller of your mind, and you get to do it.
There we go.
You are the only thinker in your mind. You are the only one that can decide what God is to and through and as you. You get to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We go on. The infinite is divine extravagance.
That might be on my list of God's. Divine extravagance.
It is forever giving itself away. God knows no thrift. The infinite does not need to be thrifty, for it is an inexhaustible mind, an inexhaustible substance. It does not need to conserve, pinch, limit, or budget. It throws itself away, for it knows that only through expression can abundant life be lived. Expression is release, and the infinite mind is forever throwing itself away, releasing itself in order for it to have total self-expression. It has to be total givingness.
Right.
This is the divine magnificence.
If you all just take this section right here and just study that line by line, what does that mean to me? It's not thrifty. It's not stingy. It's not sometimey. It doesn't judge. It doesn't decide to be God in, through, and as me because I'm acting a certain way. If you just took this paragraph and began to take it apart, sentence by sentence, apply it to your life to help you destroy the old concept and create a new one.
And we recognize we use the principle of correspondence, as above, so below, right? And so we can look at some things in our physical world to help us try to understand what that means. And I'm thinking about the sun. Right? The sun does not conserve, pinch, limit, or budget. It constantly gives of itself. And it's out of its self-expression that then, we're able to make use of it. The earth is able to make use of it. The plants are able to make use of it. It's total self-expression. It's total givingness, right? And this is why our ancient ancestors have always looked to the sun as something that is holy. Right, because we recognize it is a physical representation that points us, that gives us an inkling, that gives us a clue, right, as small as it may be, into understanding what total givingness is. Right, this is why we read in Scripture, the rain falls on the just and unjust, the sun shines on the just and unjust.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this idea of total givingness, sometimes we misunderstand this idea of total givingness. And we interpret that as sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's giving because it is an unending stream. It's not giving its last.
Right. Right. Inexhaustible is the word.
Right?
He uses there. It's powerful. Yeah. We go on. You are part of this creative process of the infinite throwing itself away. You are the receiver of the infinite bounty. To you are given the total ideas of the universe. They are given to you in order that you, too, shall express them by throwing them into your subconscious with deliberate intent and thus keeping your world fresh, new, and different. All of life wants you to live fully. All the love there is wants you to love fully. All the wisdom there is wants you to know yourself aright and fully use your capacities. You have everything going rightly on your side when you understand this science and use its principles.
All the wisdom there is wants you to know yourself aright.
Yeah.
Right? It wants you, when you see yourself in the mirror, to know who and what you really are.
Living under correct knowledge.
Oh my gosh. If all we ever did was know ourselves aright,
Yeah.
appreciate that which we really are, as opposed to holding on to what we've done in the past, our quote unquote mistakes, and recognize our sinlessness, know ourselves aright. That's why we teach all this stuff, so you can know yourself aright.
There it is.
We didn't just start teaching this so you could go get a car. If you think about the infinite ability of mind to create, a car is a small thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What's more powerful is to know yourself aright, that you
Yes.
can have, be, do whatever you decide to have, be, or do.
Hallelujah. Yes,
That this
yes.
God is not limiting you, judging you, putting you in some test or trial. Know yourself aright.
Yes. And fully use your capacities. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote, "Man's mind stretched to a new idea never goes back to its original dimensions. The more you are aware of the creative process and your place in it, the larger the dimensions of your consciousness and the greater your use of right decisions to keep right on expanding." This reminded me of something Reverend Michael teaches. He talks about it. He references the Buddhists as giving us that same idea, that once you are introduced to these ideas, you can never go back, right? The amount of time it takes for you to fully accept them and integrate them,
That's life.
that's just what it is, and that's partially, up to you, and we all have our levels of resistance. But you can actually never go back to your original dimensions, as we have
It's so-
endeavored with this text.
It's so beautiful to be
You'll
aware
never be the same.
that even when you, for example, have been in these teachings for a long time and you still, quote unquote, make a mistake, you in fact have not gone backwards.
Right.
You haven't. You continue to expand at the level of your ability to allow. And so you reached a pocket of resistance, of non-belief, of forgetting the wisdom that was teaching you to see yourself aright. Okay, so what? You can't go back. Just remember that. Oh, right, I reached a pocket.
Yep.
I reached a limit. I upper limited myself, as the text says. Okay, now what? What am I choosing to do from here? Because the past is over.
Yes, it is. Can touch me not. The infinite is forever thinking out, not in. God is not self-centered. God is not self-concerned, for God has nothing to fear. The infinite knows no enemy, for there is no opposition. It has no fight, argument, or battle. It is at peace within itself. You are the taker from the infinite in order to be the giver to the finite. Expression is a law of psychological health. Repression is the same law in reverse, so it appears to act as a law of emotional illness. Too many religious systems have taught doctrines of repression, thereby limiting and psychologically crippling their adherents. Our system does the opposite. We know that expression is the law of life. It is the law of life giving itself away by means of humanity. Humanity takes in order to give. This is beautiful, right? It's just like we inhale in order to exhale, right? This is the divinely balanced process of creative consciousness. When a person takes but fails to give, they have established confusion within themselves, and some form of deterioration begins to be born in their experience. The divine law of taking and giving cannot be abrogated without trouble being born. Right? And this is why I always love to talk about the inhale and exhale, to think about it, because so often people use this as a fear statement, right? God gave you a gift, or God gave you all that money, or God gave you that great career. You need to give, you need to do something. What you doing for the community, right? But what it's about, because you can get away with not giving, right? You're not going to die, and the lightning is not going to strike you. But we recognize in the same way that you could actually refuse to exhale for, a significant amount of time. Some people longer than others. But eventually, something's going to happen, right? Eventually, something's going to start to happen to your heart, to your blood vessels, right? And I don't know all of the things that happen internally that could ultimately lead to death or brain impairment, right? So things would start to happen. But yeah, you could hold your breath. You can hold it for a long time. Again, some people longer than others. But we recognize that it is the natural process and a beautiful process of inhaling and exhaling and inhaling and exhaling, right? And it can actually become an unconscious process, an automatic, habitual process, right? And so this is a reflection of the divine law. So he goes on, the divine law of taking and giving cannot be abrogated without trouble being born. The following, spoken aloud, will be of help. And I think we have this, I'm pretty sure I have this. Yeah. The infinite is always imparting itself to me. It created me in order to give itself away by means of me. I am the divine recipient of all the ideas of life, truth, and love. I now accept these ideas from the bounty which has already been given to me. My subconscious mind rejoices in this new material with its creative directives. It creates new situations better than any that have gone before. These new situations are means by which I give myself to a better world and to a finer humanity. I am the receiving and distributing process of the divine mind. I know myself as this. I respect myself for this. I give praise and thanks that this is so, because it is so. Amen. Ashe. And so
I
it
respect myself for this. I don't sit in worry, doubt, or in fear about my life or what I can do with it. I respect, I honor the power and the gift that is me.
Yes, yes.
I don't block it.
Yes, yes.
I respect it.
That's powerful. That's so powerful. We move on. Thus, you are knowing yourself as you are in God, thereby ceasing the incorrect knowledge of yourself as a mere man or woman or person, just a mere body or human. This redefinition is essential for your health, wealth, love, and self-expression. Hear that again. This redefinition, right? So as we talk about check your God concept, be aware of it, right? You understand, oh, this is not beneficial. You destroy it, right? And then you redefine.
Redefine, rebuild.
Right? Because this redefinition is essential for your health, wealth, love, and self-expression. If you remember, too, I love this. This reminds me of Florence Scovel Shinn, which we studied in the Masterclass last year, where she talked about those kind of 4 quadrants, right, of life: health, wealth, love, and self-expression. It proclaims your wholeness to yourself, and that self that becomes what you declare it to be. You are whole. You are sound. You are the taking, giving action of the abundant life. And, you know, when I hear you are sound, y'all know I grew up in the Holiness Church, right? And I think about the testimonies, beginning service, right? And being grateful for a sound mind, to being sound in mind and body, right? And so I think about the way my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and ancestors and church family would affirm that, right? They didn't have to understand all the underpinnings of this law, but there was power in that, in affirming the truth of sound mind and body, right? And so we affirm this today. You are whole. You are sound. You are the taking, giving action of the abundant life. You are in your right place, doing your right work, releasing right ideas at every instant of time. You know yourself as God knows you. This clear, correct self-knowing is consciousness being used as consciousness was intended to be used.
Right. So you can ask yourself, how have I been using consciousness? How have I been using this infinite intelligence that can create and continues to create and keeps this cycle going, taking and giving out action of the abundant? How have I been doing that? Not to judge yourself, but to assess it and become aware that I haven't respected the power that I've been given.
Yes.
And now I will.
Yeah.
Now I'm willing to.
It erases the false concept of humanity for all time, revealing the true nature of divinity that has always been in your consciousness, waiting for you to know yourself as you really are by ceasing to know yourself as that which you are not.
Activating your wisdom to know yourself aright.
and I'm thinking about it as we are in Pride Month, and this is one of the reasons why I love to celebrate Pride, right? Because this is about that idea of choosing now to know yourself as you really are, and ceasing to know yourself as that which you are not, ceasing to know yourself as that which some church preached against you and said you were, ceasing to know yourself as maybe your family members taught you, and you thought there was something wrong with you, but knowing you as you really are, a holy, worthy, beautiful, powerful child of God. Stretch your spiritual muscles. If some of the statements made in this book seem to you to be beyond belief, even fantastic in their claims, keep on with them, as they will stretch your mind a bit.
And a bit, and a bit, and a bit, right?
This is a healthy mental exercise. Most systems of physical exercise are incredible to the onlooker, yet they produce results. Persisted in, they maintain the individual in physical well-being.
Right. Think about that. Think about all the athletes that you think do amazing things and how much conditioning they do daily. Right? It's the same thing with this. They didn't start, I mean, they might have had the talent to do whatever, but they keep conditioning and expanding their muscles and strengthening their muscles. And it's the same with this. They know what is required to be their best, to allow even more expression, to allow even more flexibility, to allow it.
So will the spiritual sights that you glimpse reveal a mental and spiritual well-being, if persisted in over a period of time. Many times students in my classes have heard me repeat some of these ideas over a period of 5 or 10 years, and then suddenly an idea clarifies itself in their minds. We see that all the time, right? Across these 9 years of CSC, and many of you that have been in various classes with us, or one-on-one coaching, or whatever it may be, right? And it's the hearing of it over and over again that starts to do something powerful.
It's important that you understand that too, that if that ego or judgmental mind begins to say, you should know this by now, says who?
What to them had bordered on the absurd was suddenly a truth. And you can give me a show of hands or a yes. How many of you, many of you may have come to CSC and heard us say some things and affirm some things to you about yourself that seemed absurd at the time, or seemed really hard to accept, or like, are y'all sure? Or that sounds good, or well, that must just be true for y'all, but I don't know if that can be true for me. But today, it's your truth. It is an absolute truth. Now they knew what I was teaching. Now they could benefit by this new knowledge that had suddenly burst in their consciousness. Paul wrote, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but then that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away." 1 Corinthians 13:9-10. Spiritual truths mulled over in the mind eventually clarify themselves.
They have to.
Looking back at your old religious beliefs, you may wonder now how you could have ever believed them. I think about that often. But you did at that time believe them, and would have never even read more than the first paragraph of chapter 1 of this book. And that's also true.
It's also true.
There's a Greg that exists that would have called this entire text blasphemous, right? You would have set it aside and been rather caustic about it. To have read this far indicates that you have found some stimulating new concepts and are considering them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can think about the first time, for example, when I opened A Course in Miracles. I was like, It was like something by my nervous system got shook up. And what was really getting shaken up was all the worry, doubt, and fear and the old ideas, right? But it was like, oh, Lord, I can't read this. And I was years out of the old.
Yeah.
Right? So give yourself the grace that God is giving you to take your time and incorporate and integrate. You can't go back. Maybe we should put a disclaimer on our site that once you start reading this way, your life is going to shift and change and evolve into this understanding of who you really are. You will have wisdom and know yourself aright.
Yeah.
But you got to keep deciding to move in that direction.
Absolutely. A full and rich life has to be premised on spiritual understanding. I want to say that again. A full and rich life, because what is the title of this chapter? Decide to live richly. has to be premised on spiritual understanding. That means non-physical, right? It can't be premised on what you have. It can't be premised on where you live. It can't be premised on who your family is. It can't be premised on what you look like. It can't be premised on how you dress. It can't be premised on what you drive. It can't be premised on whether you're prim and proper and know certain etiquette, right? It can't be premised on any of that. It has to be premised on spiritual understanding. And as I have said before, things alone do not make a full life. They give us comfort, and this in itself may lull our consciousness to sleep when spiritual ideas are suggested. For many people, spiritual ideas are incredible, so they dismiss them from their thoughts. What they learned about God in childhood is equally incredible. But this they fail to realize.
What they learned about God.
Right. They have learned to live with such beliefs and see no reason for trying anything new along spiritual lines, especially when the newer ideas are garbed in strange vocabularies. Right?
Different vocabulary. Right.
Right? You hear affirmative prayer for the first time and you're like, what? Right? Or, I know sometimes people are like, amen, ashe, and so it is.
What
right?
does that mean?
What is that?
Right.
New ideas have to have new vocabularies.
Of course.
Right? Every new area of science as it develops begets new words, new phrases, and a whole new terminology.
Think about how often they update the dictionary. Words that new meanings, new understanding. Words go out of fashion. Right?
We have a whole lexicon of words related to technology because of the internet that didn't exist when I was born. Didn't exist when I was in elementary school, didn't exist when I was in middle school, and barely existed when I was in high school, right? And so it's interesting when you think about it. And that's even, I can talk about in high school, like I still, had a modem and used to use AOL, but some of the internet type of technology, when you think about the internet and things, the words that we use now, those words didn't exist. They weren't in my vocabulary, right? In order to present the idea of God as mind, man as that mind in action, or humanity as that mind in action, and the universe as that mind in reaction, the consciousness of the individual has to be ready to perceive words used in new ways and having new meanings.
Right. Has to.
Has to. I am thinking of all the new words and terms that have been created by the birth of the automobile. Even that word itself was created to take place of the term, the horseless carriage. Because that's right? You think about it, right? Because at the time, the horse-drawn carriages, that was the means of transportation. So this new thing was just a horseless carriage, right? And then somebody was like, well, no, it needs its own word, right? An automobile, right? And an automobile becomes a car.
Can you imagine us still calling it the horseless carriage?
Right. But of course, the horse, and that's why I always think it's interesting, like we talk about engines, horsepower. I always think it's so interesting that there's still that correlation between a car moves. It's like if there were 180 horses pulling it, that's how fast this car moves. It goes back to that connection of horse-drawn carriage, horseless carriage, right?
But you see the evolution. We haven't let go of the original intent to move, be transported.
Yes.
Right?
Every part and function of the automobile had to be given a new name. I think of all of the parts, all of those things.
Right. Those things didn't have a name. They didn't exist.
Right.
At least in our minds and experience.
So when you start thinking spiritually instead of theologically, you have to accept and assimilate a whole new language. Often the new terms in the new language are not really understood for a long time. This example, we just gave it, right? To go from horse-drawn to horseless carriage, right, to automobile to car. And then, of course, we can think about all of the different
forms of transportation now.
Well, no, I was just thinking about slang, like all of the slang. Like you could car be like, yeah, I'm getting in my ride. Oh, I got a new whip, right? You know what I'm saying? Like all of these things, right? All of these things.
All right, PG.
Right? Often the new terms are not understood, for a long time. There's this whole evolution that happens. So spiritual awareness expands spiritual understanding, which then ennobles the whole consciousness of the individual.
So what we're doing is teaching a new language to you.
Yeah.
Giving you a new vocabulary that you get to expand on, make it your own. right? You don't have to accept our terms.
Right.
Right? If you want to call it a whip, you call it a whip.
Right.
Whatever you need to call it, you create your own, but realize we're moving your understanding along.
Yes, yes.
And there might be some feeling of dis-ease or uncomfort with that because we like to be comfortable.
Right.
We like to think our brain likes to know that it knows everything, that it can set up things in a certain way. It's just designed to do that.
Yep.
That's why it fills in those spaces in our vision with what it thinks needs to be there. We have those blind spots, literally.
Literally.
And our brain fills it in so that we are comfortable in knowing what's going on right now. And so if you become uncomfortable because you're getting a new language, just understand it will accept it if you use it.
There you go.
If you embody it, if you study it.
Remember, the title of this section is Stretch Your Spiritual Muscles, right? And again, thinking about the metaphor that he uses in terms of exercise. It's one of the things that I always find interesting, right? When I'm starting working out again or starting a new exercise, right? How it takes the body and the mind a minute to get used to it, right? And it feels arduous. It's like, Lord, I can't believe I'm doing this, right? Or if you haven't done it in a while and you're like, how in the world was I doing this before? Like, I used to do this and I thought it was normal. This does not feel normal now, right? But we recognize how that process works and we recognize that it can become normal. New definitions and new explanations given to the old spiritual terms bring enlightenment. God as mind instead of God as a Superman coming down to save us, opens up all kinds of questions and leads to all kinds of new thoughts and convictions.
Right, which is why we're never afraid of questions.
Right,
You
right.
need the questions to help you develop a new language, new conviction. We're not afraid of those. Many times, in spiritual places, they're afraid. You can't ask questions.
Right.
You just have to go on what they say. We want you to develop this knowledge.
Right.
We want you to ask questions.
Right.
That's why God Talk is even there. We still ask questions.
Yes, yes.
And we're excited by that expansion of our muscles growing around the spirituality that we say we believe.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Humanity as a divine individualization of all life negates the human born to sin. All this causes mental exercise, which in turn causes expansion in awareness. It is like living in a large city and at dusk, watching the lights gradually come on in office buildings and homes. Everything is seen in a new dimension, and though it may not be fully comprehended, yet the mind expands.
I love this. So don't beat yourself up if you don't get it, quote unquote. You're expanding, you're growing, you're asking more questions. And that place in all of us that's afraid to ask questions was that place in all of us that was conditioned to believe you couldn't.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it gets a little, don't judge yourself for that,
yeah,
for not knowing.
yeah.
Maintain that beginner's mind that's always available to learning,
Absolutely.
to knowing, to growing, to
Absolutely.
acquiring the wisdom.
Absolutely. I often say to myself, God is wonderful. I am wonderful. Life is wonderful. All is wonderful because God is the wonder of it all. Such sentences would stick in the throats of many old-time religionists, and it would be considered blasphemous. I consider them to be the truth. For me, they open up new vistas, new horizons. I see myself in a larger framework. I sense the unity of all things. I have a deeper dedication to right living based upon affirmative thinking. That's a powerful statement. Right? Because when you start to think about morality and people think religion is supposed to make you do right? But it's actually, when you have a expanded awareness and understanding of what's really going on in the unity of all things, that's what then gives you a deeper dedication to right-based living, right? Because then the unity of all things, then you're going to be conscious of what's going on with the planet and how we're interacting with the planet. You're conscious that the trees are you and you are the trees, and there's a symbiotic relationship, right? You're conscious then also of, even if someone doesn't look like you, right? There's a unifying a reality between the two of us that causes me to love you, right? That causes me to affirm and know that you are God in form, right?
I love that image that we shared for Pride this month. The quote.
Yeah. Every human, God is in every human.
God is in
the divine, right? That's Ralph Waldo Emerson.
In every human.
Yeah. I realize that my five sense mind with its great intellect is not all there is to life. The unknown ways of the spirit can be known by me. I am not in a spiritual mystery that cannot be comprehended. I am in a spiritual explanation in which I can grow in understanding it and the ways in which it works. I do not have to take spiritual ideas on faith. I do not have to. I explore them until I have a clear knowledge of them.
Right.
Then they are my possessions, my pearls of great price. Right? We may start with faith. We may start, I believe these things are true. And as we believe these things are true, we come into knowing these things are true. And as we come into a knowing, we start to live from an expectation.
Absolutely. And it might be that you have faith in one area and you move through this cycle that PG just described, and then you got to apply that same faith and move through that next cycle. Don't assume that because it didn't work, that it's working over here, it's not going to work over here. It has to. So you apply the same process and you move through it with love and tenderness and grace, compassion, all that stuff.
Absolutely. The full life is a field of limitless opportunity. It requires no physical labor. If you don't have that highlighted,
I have that whole thing there. Yep.
Because, folk always think physical labor. We use the word work, but work has to be qualified, right? Work can be smart or it can be hard.
And that's why I like to call it remembering. That what we're doing is just remembering, using our wisdom to know ourselves are right, whatever you want to say.
It requires no physical labor.
Yeah.
It bids you to think new thoughts about the eternal verities and thus reshape your conclusions. Reshape, redefine.
Whatever you need to
right? Same energy. You see yourself as you have never seen yourself before. You sense the spiritual power that is really yours, a power for you to use to live richly, happily, and to give in new ways to other people.
I love this. You sense the spiritual power that is really yours. It don't mean you got to go and tell everybody that it's really yours. You just live in it and people see it. You don't have to broadcast this to anybody.
Right.
You just live from it and people see it.
And benefit from it.
And benefit from it.
Right.
We spend so much time trying to convince the world that what we believe about these teachings is right. No, just live it. They will know it's right.
You have the sense that you are unconditioned and free. No problems control your thinking. Your thinking controls and dissipates all problems, right? Don't talk to God about your problems. Tell your problems about your big God. I'm trying to think about Reverend Eloise who says that, right? Your knowingness is always on time. You know what you need to know at the time that you need to know it.
And not before.
Yeah.
Right?
All ideas are available to you, and your mind is open and receptive to them. You rejoice in the limitless opportunity that is yours. Those who live the full life have no fear of the future. They know that tomorrow is today amplified. Tomorrow is the outpicturing of today in a new arrangement. If there is no fear of this day, then there will be no fear in another day. Present consciousness is always the future experience. The future is secure for those who are living in mental and emotional security right now. Rather than fear the future, plan the future and put into it some excitement. This reminds me, this is why we talk about daily spiritual practice not being an option and doing your daily practice no matter what, right? Because then you're actually planning your future. So that when a problem shows up or something shows up in the future, it's going to be colored by what you did today, right?
In a positive way.
Right? Rather than fear the future, plan the future and put into it some excitement. It all starts with present thinking. If today's thinking is not exciting, then tomorrow's experience will not be either. As a thinker thinking, you can create what you want when you want it, and this robs the future of any negative suggestion. You are free in time.
I love that.
That's a deep thought right there. You are free in time. And why is that a deep thought? Because think of all of the things, the limiting conversations that are had around time, right? That time is money, that there's not enough time, that you only have a certain amount of time in the day, or that you can lose your time, you can waste your time.
Or I'm too old, or
right?
I'm too young. That's all time-based.
Right. And so you can negate all of that those colloquialisms and sayings that people say, I am free in time, always. Past, present, and future are controllable in your mind, in your consciousness. The past can be cleansed. The present can be made fruitful. The future can be what you decide it shall be. All of this is possible because you are consciousness making creative decisions. Exercising your spiritual muscles by accepting new ideas makes you aware of the wonder of it all. By knowing that all things, people, situations, and events are spiritual, you live in the amazement of the Spirit. Truth, love, and beauty can be seen in everything. It is as though you suddenly saw colors for the first time. A new dimension seems to be added to everything. The pebble on the beach is not just a stone.
Right.
Now it is a work of art to be studied, to be felt, to be praised. Excuse me. Suddenly, all things, great or small, are of equal importance, and they bring to you interesting concepts to be considered. All things add to your wealth of mind and emotion. You see where you have not seen. You feel where you have not felt. The luminosity of God pervades your whole consciousness, and you know that heaven is this earth. You are in it. You are never again to be out of it. It surrounds, indwells, and fulfills itself by means of you, now that your spiritual understanding is obvious to you. Right, those last sentences reminded me of Yoda's sermon to Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back, which I referenced earlier this year. Right, when he talks about luminous beings are we, and he's like, you think I know who I have? I have an ally. My ally is the Force, and a great, powerful ally it is. Right, and he's living in that consciousness that Barker is talking about here. We're going to end here. I'm looking at time, and so we'll pick up the rest of this chapter next week. That's not next month. Next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next.
Lord have mercy. But this is an exciting chapter, and it's powerful because, again, decide to live richly. And we haven't talked about money. And again, we're going to talk about prosperity. He's going to talk a little bit about money in this section. But it's bigger than that. Right? It's so much bigger than that, right? Because then money just becomes something that conforms to this consciousness. That's all that it does, right? And then yes, you will have more than enough, and you will have access. And I say it to people, I can't keep money away from me, right? I can't. I'm not trying to, but I can't because of this habitual consciousness that I live in, right? And this beautiful expectation that I've cultivated. Lord knows it wasn't always the truth.
Right.
It wasn't always the truth.
It's
right,
interesting
of my life.
Right. And I'm glad you said that. It
Right.
wasn't always the truth of our experience of life. Right? Because we weren't living in these teachings, or we hadn't studied them enough
Right.
to really integrate them, embody them, and keep coming back to them, and keep destroying the old ideas of prosperity, the old ideas of self, and replacing it with new. This joy of creation and living don't stop.
Right.
This joy of expanded awareness don't stop. The party don't stop.
Yes. So please reread this chapter. Send in your questions. You can email us at truthsunday@celebrationsc.org, and we'll incorporate those questions into next week's class. Otherwise, we're just going to continue and flowing as we're flowing with this chapter, which is absolutely powerful. You've seen the information throughout the stream on how to give to CSC. It's very easy to do that. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. What's most important is give what feels good. Right, we're having one conversation as we understand your consciousness, right? If you're giving from any place of fear, hesitation, reticence, shame, guilt, obligation, right, or tit for tat, some kind of God is going to bless me because right. That consciousness, then you're going to be living in that kind of realm in every other area of your life, right? And life is going to respond to you that way, and the people in your life are going to respond to you in that way, unknowingly, because they're simply just responding to your consciousness. And so that's why it's so very important. Give what feels good. Give from that vibration, right? And that vibration is reflected in what we affirm each and every week. All the money that I use
All the money that I use
returns to me multiplied
returns to me multiplied
in a never-ending cycle
in a never-ending cycle
of increase
and
enjoyment.
enjoyment.
To that we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
So it is.
So it is.
So
This
it
is a
is.
good chapter, y'all.
Yes, yes. This chapter is powerful. We are so happy that you chose to join us and continue to be on this journey with us. For any of you that are joining us for the first time, or you just tapped in, somehow found this stream today, we've been doing this. This is now for our ninth week. And so on our YouTube channel, we have the playlist. You can go to week 1. We've been spending 2 weeks on each chapter just to really get into the meat of it. So we encourage you to get your copy of The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. You can see the information in the description here in this post on YouTube or on Facebook. Get the book, start reading, go back to the previous chapters. Again, we're breaking it down in the same way. We're also providing various resources, sometimes sermons, the spiritual mind treatments that are in each chapter, the affirmations, and so we want to continue to support you. PY, she quoted herself, "Go back to that sermon, take back your keys," right? So they can't drive you crazy unless you give them the keys. Right, that sermon is powerful. Take back your keys. I encourage you to check that out this week. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We know that you will have an awesome week. We look forward to many of you joining us on Wednesday for the prayer call. And if we don't connect on Wednesday, then of course we will connect right back here on Sunday at 11 a.m. as we continue with I've Got the Power, our Truth Sunday Masterclass for this year. So enjoy your time, enjoy your day, and we will see you soon. All right?
Bye for now. Love
Bye
you
for
all.
now.